Welcome to this explainer. So, if you're prepping for the IELTS exam, whether that's academic or general training, you probably already know that having strong English skills is an absolute must. But here is the secret that catches so many test takers completely off guard. The IELTS listening section is just as much a test of strategy as it is a test of your English ability. Today, we're going to transform exactly how you approach this exam by digging into the specific strategies that have helped thousands of students reach a band 7, 8, or even a perfect 9. We've got a lot of incredibly valuable structured info to get through, and I am so excited to guide you through it.
Okay, let's dive into this Master's Toolkit. Today's roadmap covers test structure and scoring, 2 game-changing strategies, essential quick wins, conquering multiple choice, navigating maps and matching, and finally, filling in the blanks. If you've been feeling anxious about the test, seriously, don't worry. We have a fantastic step-by-step system lined up for you.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Test Structure and Scoring.
Before we get into the really advanced tactics, we got to establish the rules of the game. You have 40 questions to answer in roughly 30 minutes. But take a look at the numbers here. You absolutely do not need perfection to get a highly competitive score. To hit a band 6, you only need 23 correct answers out of 40. And look at band 7. You just need 30 correct answers. Think about that for a second. That means you can completely miss 10 questions and still walk away with a fantastic band 7. Setting your target realistically like this, it completely changes your entire mentality going in. Now, the format you actually choose dictates your timing strategy. If you're taking the paper IELTS, you get 10 extra minutes at the very end of the test just to transfer your answers over to the official sheet. But if you take the computer-based test, you're selecting and typing your answers on the fly. Because of that, computer test takers only get 2 minutes at the end to review. Knowing this up front is absolutely critical for how you manage your focus during the audio.
Moving right along to Section 2, 2 game-changing strategies.
These macro-level strategies are basically lifelines. They consistently save students the most marks. Let me tell you a story from our source material about a student named Daniel. Now, Daniel had great English, strong writing, really solid vocabulary, but he kept failing the listening section. Why? Well, because he lacked a system. During a map task, he tried to look at the whole map and all the questions at exactly the same time. He would frantically jump back and forth searching for answers without any structure. The difficulty wasn't his English at all. The difficulty was an illusion created by his total lack of strategy.
And this brilliantly illustrates our very first macro strategy: follow the questions in order. The fix for Daniel was actually surprisingly simple. All he had to do was find the starting point on the map and then just move from question to question chronologically. In IELTS listening, the questions always, and I mean always, appear in order. You hear the answer to the first question, then the second, then the third. You really have to train your brain to follow this sequential, chronological path.
Then there's Strategy 2, which honestly might be the most crucial habit you can build. At the end of every section, the audio gives you about 30 seconds to check your answers. Listen to me. This is a trap. Do not use this time to check previous answers. You can check them at the very end of the test. Instead, you must aggressively flip the page and use those precious 30 seconds to read ahead to the upcoming questions. Getting ahead of the recording is literally the only way to survive the really reading-heavy sections.
Let's move to Section 3, Essential Quick Wins.
We've looked at the big picture strategies, but now I want to zoom in on some micro tactics that can instantly boost your score. Let's look at a classic test maker trap. Imagine your question asks what day a workshop takes place. Then the audio starts and you hear, "The workshop was originally scheduled for Monday." Naturally, your brain screams, "Monday, write down Monday." But this is what we call a distractor. The test intentionally tempts you with an early incorrect answer to throw you off.
Because look at what happens next. The speaker keeps going and says, "But because the hall is being renovated, we've rescheduled it to Wednesday." Boom. Wednesday is the true answer. This proves exactly why you must always wait for the speaker to completely finish their thought before you commit to an answer. Just don't take that early bait.
Now let's talk about some quick accuracy rules. First up, spelling totally counts. Even if you hear the perfect word, if you misspell it by just one single letter, it is marked entirely wrong. Second, grammar is your safety net. If you write A museums, the plural S makes it grammatically impossible with the singular article A, meaning your answer is incorrect. And finally, please do not add your own articles. If an article is needed, it's already going to be printed in the test booklet for you.
We also have quick wins for your flow. The test rarely uses the exact words from the prompt, so you've got to listen for the overall meaning. Next, and I know this is tough, if you miss an answer, keep going. Information is never repeated in IELTS. Trying to recover one missed answer is the fastest way to accidentally miss 3 more. Just take a guess, because there are 0 penalties for wrong answers, and never ever leave a blank. Lastly, a quick formatting tip. Use all caps for the paper test so your writing is perfectly clear, but just stick to normal case on the computer.
All right, Section 4, Conquering Multiple Choice. Pretty much every student universally acknowledges that multiple choice is the hardest task on the entire test. The vocabulary is incredibly dense, the options are way too long, and it's just so easy to get overwhelmed. So let's outsmart it. Here is your step-by-step defense mechanism. First, that read-ahead strategy we discussed. Absolutely vital here. You need every spare second to pre-read these long options. Second, highlight keywords in the main question only. Do not waste your time highlighting the A, B, C options. The main question tells you what you're actively hunting for. Third, especially in Part 3 where 2 students might be discussing a topic, expect them to change their minds mid-sentence. You aren't listening for their first idea, you're listening for their final agreed-upon decision.
On to Section 5, Navigating Maps and Matching. Now, these visual and categorization tasks often induce serious panic, but you can actually turn them into a strict visual checklist before the audio even begins. Step 1. Establish your physical bearings by finding the starting point. This is usually an entrance or a "you are here" marker. Step 2. Check the compass. If they say northwest, you need to know exactly where that is instantly. Step 3. Identify the main lines, like roads or rivers, which give you the structural skeleton of the map. And finally, listen for those tiny, distinguishing details, because they are often the only things separating the right answer from a distractor.
So, the really crucial point here is understanding how matching tasks actually function. You'll get a list of numbered statements and a box of lettered options. Here's the golden rule you need to remember. The numbered statements you're trying to answer always come in chronological order in the audio, but the options in the box, they do not.
Because those options don't come in order, you absolutely must read the options box before the recording starts. As you listen for synonymous meanings, physically cross out the options you've used if you're taking the paper test. If you're on the computer, you'll actually watch them disappear. Visually crossing them out drastically reduces your mental load as the audio progresses, leaving you with way fewer choices for the final, hardest questions. Oh, and remember, expect to have unused options left over at the end. That's totally normal.
Finally, Section 6, Filling in the Blanks.
This task is super unique because it literally bookends the entire listening test. It shows up in both Part 1 and Part 4. But look at the extreme contrast between these two appearances. In Part 1, you're listening to an everyday dialogue, something like booking a tour, with a very natural pace and accessible vocabulary. But by the time you reach Part 4, the exact same fill-in-the-blank task type is applied to a dense, fast-paced academic lecture delivered by a single speaker. It is a massive jump in difficulty, for sure, but the exact same mechanics apply to both.
So here is your ultimate playbook for mastering blanks. First, always check the word limits. If it says one word, writing 2 words guarantees a score of 0, even if your underlying meaning is totally correct. Second, try to predict the answer type before the audio even starts. Ask yourself, am I listening for a number, a noun, a verb? And finally, in that really difficult Part 4 lecture, use the provided subheaders on the page to navigate. Those subheaders, things like definition or impact, they act just like a GPS, keeping you perfectly synced with the speaker's pace.
But look, knowing all these rules is really only half the battle. The rest is about building the muscle memory. The source material highly recommends applying this exact toolkit exclusively to official, authentic test materials, like the Cambridge practice books. You can also utilize resources like the Ultimate IELTS Playbook to physically practice these habits. You want to practice things like reading ahead and predicting answers until they become completely second nature to you.
We have covered an incredible amount of ground in this explainer today, breaking down everything from pacing and distractors to multiple choice and map navigation. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. You already have the English skills, but do you have the strategy? By actively applying the structural tactics we've outlined today, you can stop letting the test dictate your pace and start taking real control of your score. Thanks so much for joining me today, and hey, happy practicing.